If intelligence created wealth, the world would look very different. The most intelligent people would sit at the top of society, rewarded for their brilliance. Professors would be richer than businessmen. Philosophers would own cities. Scientists would control nations. But reality exposes the lie instantly. The people with the highest IQs are rarely the wealthiest. The people with the most degrees are often employees for life. And the people who follow the rules most closely usually remain trapped inside them. This is the first illusion that must be destroyed. Wealth is not a reward for intelligence. It is a reward for position. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He observed that power never belonged to the most moral, the most educated, or even the most talented. It belonged to those who placed themselves correctly within the structure of society, those who stood at leverage points, those who controlled access, timing, and decision-making. Intelligence mattered only insofar as it helped secure position. Without position, intelligence was decorative, impressive, but useless. Most people are taught that success comes from being smart. Get good grades, memorize information, follow instructions, be impressive on paper. But this version of intelligence is designed for one purpose only, to make you useful to someone else's position. Schools do not teach leverage. They teach compliance disguised as competence. You are trained to solve problems that other people own, inside systems you did not design, for rewards that shrink over time. Position works differently. Position means you are not measured by effort, but by control. It means outcomes bend in your favor, not because you worked harder, but because you stand where value flows through you. The employee works harder than the owner. The owner earns more because the system passes through him. That is position. Once you see this, the mystery of wealth disappears. The rich are not smarter in the way you were taught to admire. They are strategically placed. They own equity instead of labor. They sit upstream instead of downstream. They decide instead of request. They extract instead of request. They extract instead of produce. And most importantly, they avoid being measured by metrics that others control. Machiavelli warned that those who mistake virtue for power will always lose to those who understand structure. Intelligence without leverage creates frustration. You know too much, yet control too little. This is why highly intelligent people often feel trapped, bitter, or invisible. They see the flaws in the system but lack the position to exploit them. Awareness without authority is suffering. The wealthy do not ask, "How smart am I?" They ask, "Where am I placed?" They think in terms of ownership, access, proximity, and optionality. They understand that a mediocre mind in the right position outperforms a brilliant mind in the wrong one. A gatekeeper with average intelligence controls the fate of geniuses waiting outside the gate. Look at how society actually works. Money flows through bottlenecks, distribution channels, networks, platforms, decision nodes. Whoever controls these does not need to be exceptional. They only need to be unavoidable. Position creates inevitability. Intelligence merely decorates it. This is why getting rich is simpler than you think. You are not required to become extraordinary. You are required to stop competing on intelligence and start competing on placement. The game is not how good am I. The game is where do I stand relative to value. Machiavelli observed that rulers who relied on being loved or admired were weak. Those who controlled structure endured. Wealth follows the same law. Admiration fades, credentials depreciate, skills become obsolete, but position compounds. Once you control a node in the system, others must move around you. You become expensive to ignore. The tragedy is that most people are never taught to think this way. They are told to improve themselves endlessly while remaining in the same powerless position. More degrees, more certifications, more hustle, more effort, all movement, no leverage, like running faster on a treadmill that never moves. The wealthy exit this treadmill early. They understand that effort scales poorly, but position scales infinitely. 1 hour of labor equals 1 hour of pay. One strategic position can generate income while you sleep. This is not luck, it is architecture. Machiavelli would say that fortune favors those who prepare structures, not those who pray for opportunity. Position is preparation made permanent. It converts chance into consistency. This is why wealth looks effortless from the outside. The work happened earlier, in choosing where to stand. Once you internalize this, envy disappears. You stop asking why others deserve more than you. Deserve has nothing to do with it. You begin asking the only question that matters: what position am I in, and who benefits from it? Because here is the uncomfortable truth. If you are not wealthy, someone else is profiting from your position. Your intelligence is being rented, your effort is being priced, your time is being capped, and the system praises you just enough to keep you compliant. Machiavelli never promised fairness, he promised clarity, and clarity is this: wealth is a positional game played by people who stopped trying to look smart and started trying to become unavoidable. Once you see that, getting rich stops feeling impossible, it stops feeling mystical, it becomes mechanical. Change position and the outcome changes automatically. If getting rich were truly complex, it would not be repeatable. It would not follow bloodlines. It would not survive generations. Yet history shows the opposite. The same families, the same institutions, the same structures accumulate wealth again and again, while millions of intelligent, hard-working people remain permanently confused. This alone tells you the truth. Complexity is not a requirement of wealth, it is a filter. Machiavelli understood that confusion is one of the most effective tools of control. A population that believes survival is complicated will always seek guidance, permission, and authority. Complexity keeps people obedient, because it convinces them they are unqualified to act independently. When people feel ignorant, they outsource their power, and when they outsource their power, someone else profits. The system teaches you that money is hard because it needs to. If wealth were framed as simple, direct, and mechanical, too many people would see through the illusion. So it is wrapped in jargon, theories, rules, exceptions, and moral warnings. You are told you need special knowledge, perfect timing, insider access, or extraordinary talent. In reality, most of this is noise designed to exhaust you before you ever take control. True wealth creation obeys a few basic principles. Control more than you consume. Own more than you rent. Position yourself where value moves, not where it is used. Reduce exposure to downside. Allow time to compound. These ideas are not complex. They are uncomfortable because they require you to stop playing the role you were trained for. Machiavelli warned that rulers maintain power by shaping belief more than by enforcing rules. If people believe a system is too complex to challenge, it does not need to be defended. It becomes self-protecting. Modern financial systems operate the same way. They appear intimidating so that only a small group feels entitled to understand them, while everyone else accepts permanent participation as a subordinate. This is why obedience is disguised as intelligence. You are praised for knowing rules, not for questioning who benefits from them. You are rewarded for navigating complexity, not for escaping it. Complexity keeps you busy while others simplify, and simplification is where power lives. The wealthy do not chase complexity. They avoid it. They strip decisions down to fundamentals. They ask fewer questions, not more. They eliminate variables. They design systems that function regardless of mood, motivation, or daily effort. Complexity increases dependency. Simplicity increases control. Look at how wealth actually scales. It does not scale through constant action. It scales through systems that repeat automatically. Rent, royalties, equity, platforms, ownership structures. Each of these reduces the need for daily involvement. The more complex your income requires you to be, the poorer you are. The simpler it runs without you, the wealthier you become. Machiavelli would recognize this instantly. He advised leaders to create institutions that sustain power without constant force. The most stable rule is quiet rule. The same applies to money. The most powerful wealth is invisible, boring, and predictable. Drama belongs to those without control. Complexity also creates moral confusion. You are taught that wealth requires constant struggle, sacrifice, and suffering, that if it were easy, everyone would do it. This is false. If it were clearly explained, fewer people would accept their current position. So effort is glorified while results are ignored. You are praised for trying, not for winning. Those in power benefit when effort replaces outcome as the metric of worth. It keeps labor flowing without challenging ownership. Make counterparts of Machiavelli's princes. Encourage pride in hard work precisely because it distracts from the absence of leverage. As long as you are exhausted, you are not dangerous. Wealth is not complicated because it does not require perfect behavior. It requires correct alignment. Once aligned, even average decisions produce above-average results. Once misaligned, even brilliant decisions fail. Complexity hides misalignment by blaming the individual instead of the structure. The reason people fear simplicity is because it exposes uncomfortable truths. If wealth is simple, then your struggle is not heroic. It is strategic failure, and that is harder to accept than believing the game is unfairly complex. Machiavelli did not romanticize struggle. He respected effectiveness. He would advise you to abandon paths that require constant explanation and adopt ones that explain themselves through results. Power never justifies itself. It demonstrates itself. Notice how those who truly understand money speak. They do not lecture. They do not motivate. They do not overwhelm you with information. They act. Their silence is not ignorance. It is certainty. Complexity seeks applause. Simplicity commands space. Once you reject complexity, your behavior changes. You stop chasing secrets and start building positions. You stop consuming information and start acquiring assets. You stop asking for permission and start designing leverage. You stop waiting for clarity and start creating inevitability. The system will resist this shift. Complexity defends itself. It will tell you that you are oversimplifying, that you do not understand risk, that you are being irresponsible. Machiavelli would smile at this. He knew that the loudest defenders of complexity are those who benefit from it. Getting rich is simpler than you think because simplicity is threatening. It removes intermediaries. It removes intermediaries. It removes excuses. It removes dependence. And once those are gone, power changes hands. The final deception is this. People assume complexity equals sophistication. In reality, complexity often signals inefficiency. Those who control wealth pursue the shortest path between cause and effect. They do not admire difficulty. They eliminate it. Machiavelli taught that the wise ruler appears complex while operating simply. The modern wealthy reverse this illusion. They let the system look complex while their personal strategy remains brutally simple. When you understand this, confusion turns into calm. Anxiety turns into direction. Wealth stops being a distant dream and becomes a matter of subtraction, not addition. Remove what distracts. Remove what depends on effort. Remove what requires constant explanation. What remains is power. Most people chase money the way a desperate man chases a shadow, always moving, never catching it, exhausted by the pursuit. They believe that if they run faster, work harder, or learn more, the shadow will eventually stop. It never does. Machiavelli would recognize this mistake instantly. Money is not a target, it is a consequence. Power comes first. Money follows automatically. This is the inversion most people never understand. They are taught to pursue rewards before securing control, to seek payment before position, to demand outcomes before owning the process that produces them. This is why money feels slippery. It does not respond to desire. It responds to dominance. Machiavelli warned rulers never to depend on the goodwill of others. Dependence creates vulnerability. Those who chase money depend on those who already have it. They negotiate from weakness. They must convince, impress, beg, or comply. Those who hold power do not negotiate for money. They set terms. Payment arrives because others require access. Power is the ability to decide, to permit, to deny, to delay, to prioritize. When you control decisions, money becomes a fee others pay to move forward. When you do not, money becomes a reward you hope someone grants you. This is why the rich appear patient. They are not waiting, they are positioned. They know money will come because the structure demands it. The poor appear frantic because they are exposed. They must chase what they do not control. Urgency is a symptom of powerlessness. Look closely at how wealth concentrates. It does not accumulate around the hardest workers. It accumulates around those who control gateways. Owners of land, platforms, capital, distribution, licensing, and attention. None of these require constant effort. They require authority. Once authority is secured, money becomes repetitive. Machiavelli advised princes to secure fortresses before engaging in war. Power first, conflict later. Modern wealth operates under the same logic. Secure a position where others must pass through you, and income becomes unavoidable. Miss this step, and no amount of effort will save you. People confuse power with force. They imagine domination, aggression, visibility. Machiavelli knew better. True power is quiet. It does not announce itself. It is embedded into structure. When power is real, it does not need to prove itself. It simply redirects outcomes. This is why chasing money is always late. You react to opportunities instead of creating them. You respond to markets instead of shaping them. You negotiate prices instead of collecting rents. You are downstream, catching what flows past you instead of controlling the source. Power flips this relationship. Once you own the source, others compete for proximity. They justify themselves to you. They accept your conditions. You do not need to be exceptional. You need to be necessary. Machiavelli observed that mercenaries are unreliable because they fight for pay, not power. The same applies to modern labor. Those who sell their time are mercenaries. In an economic war they do not control. Their income depends on continued approval. Their survival depends on external decisions. Those who seek power seek ownership. Ownership over resources, systems, and outcomes. They understand that once ownership is secured, money becomes administrative, collected, not chased. This is why wealthy people often seem indifferent to money. Indifference is not ignorance, it is dominance. They know the game is already won at the structural level. Emotional attachment disappears when outcomes are predictable. Machiavelli would advise you to stop asking how to make more money and start asking what you can control. Control over a process, control over distribution, control over capital, control over decision-making. Even limited control is more valuable than unlimited effort. Power also explains why morality is often weaponized against ambition. Those without power are taught to fear it, to associate it with greed, corruption, or danger. This ensures they never seek it. Meanwhile, those already in power redefine morality to justify their position. Chasing money keeps you morally safe but strategically weak. Seeking power makes you uncomfortable but effective. Machiavelli never asked whether something felt good. He asked whether it worked. The transition from money chaser to power holder is psychological before it is financial. You must accept responsibility for outcomes instead of blaming systems. You must stop asking for permission to act. You must tolerate being misunderstood. Power is lonely because it separates you from the crowd. Once power is secured, money becomes boring. It arrives without drama. It is not celebrated because it is expected. The wealthy do not feel excitement from income. They feel relief from exposure, security from volatility, control over time. This is why those who chase money remain anxious even when they earn more. Without power, income is fragile. It can be taken, reduced, or delayed. Power stabilizes wealth. It turns income into an extension of structure rather than effort. Machiavelli understood that fortune favors those who command circumstances rather than plead with them. Money is fortune, power is command. When you reverse the order, power first, money second, you stop guessing. You stop guessing. You stop guessing. You stop hoping. You build something others depend on, and dependence is the true currency of wealth. Money does not reward desire, it rewards dominance. From the moment you are young, you are taught a simple lesson. Play fair, follow the rules, and everything will work out. This lesson is repeated so often that it becomes invisible. It is not presented as strategy. It is presented as morality. And that is precisely why it works. Machiavelli understood that morality is not neutral. It is a tool, and like all tools, it serves whoever holds power. The poor are taught to play fair because fairness keeps them predictable. Predictability makes control easy. When you know how someone will behave, you can plan around them, exploit them, and extract value from them without resistance. Rules are not written for those who can rewrite them. They are written for those who must obey them. The rich understand this instinctively. They do not reject rules openly. That would attract attention. Instead, they interpret rules flexibly. They obey the letter when necessary and escape the spirit whenever possible. Machiavelli advised princes to appear virtuous while remaining unconstrained by virtue when survival was at stake. This was not cynicism, it was realism. Those without power cling to fairness because it gives meaning to their suffering. If the game is fair, then losing is noble. Effort becomes identity. Struggle becomes virtue. But fairness is irrelevant to outcomes. History does not reward those who play beautifully. It rewards those who win. The wealthy play a different game. They ask not what is fair, but what is effective. Not what is permitted, but what is enforceable. Not what is praised, but what produces results. This is why wealth appears immoral to those who lack it. They are judging a different game by rules that do not apply. Machiavelli warned that rigid morality is dangerous because it prevents adaptation. Circumstances change. Power flows. Threats emerge. Those who cannot bend break. Those who can bend survive. The poor are trained to remain rigid. The rich are trained to remain correct. Correct does not mean cruel. It means accurate. It means responding to reality as it is, not as it should be. When morality conflicts with survival, survival wins every time. Those who deny this outsource their fate to those who do not. This is why fairness is emphasized so early. Children are rewarded for obedience long before they understand leverage. They learn to wait their turn, share equally, and accept authority. These lessons create excellent employees and obedient citizens. They do not create owners. Owners learn a harsher truth. Rules are suggestions enforced selectively. Consequences matter more than intentions. Appearances protect you more than honesty. Results silence criticism more effectively than arguments. Machiavelli did not tell rulers to be evil. He told them to be effective. There is a difference. Evil seeks destruction. Effectiveness seeks survival and dominance. The poor confuse the two because they are taught to fear power instead of understanding it. Fairness also keeps people small. It discourages asymmetry. It teaches that taking more than your share is wrong. But wealth is built on asymmetry. Ownership is unequal by design. Control is concentrated, not distributed. The moment you try to equalize outcomes, you destroy the incentive structures that create wealth in the first place. Those who accumulate wealth understand that life is not a classroom. There are no referees. There are no guaranteed appeals. There is only what you can enforce and what you can defend. Playing fair in an unfair environment is not virtue. It is self-sabotage. Machiavelli would observe that those who insist on fairness often do so because they lack leverage. They demand rules because rules protect the weak from the strong. But once strength is achieved, rules become optional. This is the uncomfortable truth that society avoids discussing. Notice how morality changes with status. What is called greed at the bottom becomes ambition at the top. What is called exploitation by outsiders becomes efficiency inside boardrooms. Language shifts to protect power. Machiavelli understood that controlling language controls judgment. The wealthy do not announce rule-breaking. They hire professionals to do it legally. Lawyers, accountants, lobbyists. Rule-bending is sanitized through complexity. This allows them to remain respectable while operating ruthlessly. The poor lack access to this insulation, so they are forced to obey strictly. This is why playing fair is expensive. It requires you to absorb costs, others externalize. It requires you to honor limits, others escape. It requires you to remain transparent, while others remain strategic. Over time, this gap compounds. Machiavelli would tell you that virtue without power is decoration. It makes you admirable, not effective. Power without virtue is unstable, but power with controlled virtue is unstoppable. The rich are not amoral, they are selective. They know when to follow rules and when to ignore them. They know which lines are real and which exist only to test obedience. They do not moralize decisions that are structural. They treat them as engineering problems. Once you understand this, resentment fades. You stop expecting fairness from systems designed for control. You stop judging outcomes through moral fantasy. You start asking better questions. What are the real rules? Who enforces them? What happens if I ignore them? This shift is dangerous. It removes comforting illusions, but it also restores agency. Machiavelli believed that freedom belonged to those who understood power, not those who prayed for justice. The poor play fair because they believe fairness will save them. The rich play correctly because they know only power does. And in the end, the world does not ask whether you were good, it asks whether you were effective.